exception. We are here for round 9 of 12 of the AMA 125cc Outdoor Motocross Series. Hello, everyone. I'm John Kernan along with Jan Beekish. And last week, we had the support race. Mike Brown winning a race that no points were involved, but a lot of the top riders took that weekend off.
John, we talked about the factory riders taking a much-needed rest. They've been racing so hard and unfortunately crashing so hard that now they have to really save that energy. With only 4 races to go, believe me, this championship hunt has really heated up.
Well, it certainly has. Let's take a look at the top 5. You can see defending national champion Doug Henry is leading his Honda teammate Steve Lamson by only 8 points. Then Ryan Hughes in third. He's only 19 points out of the lead. Damon Huffman and Jeff Emig, the 1992 national champion, are both still in the hunt. When we come back, we'll take a look at this tough Millville course, followed by the first of 2 motos. Stay with us.
We're getting set to get down to business at Spring Creek Motocross Park in Millville, Minnesota. Well, it's kind of muggy right now. There you see Pete Steinbrecher trying to keep his rider, Doug Henry, the defending national champ, and points leader cool. And talk about cool, this is a cool track.
It is, John. This is one of the best maintained tracks on the circuit. But over there by the M, where you see that horseshoe turn, that is a sandy section of whoops that's really hairy. With more on that, let's check in with Jerry.
Okay, the track here, kind of sandy, natural whoop section. Talk to me about those long whoops.
Well, the whoops back there are really good. They're really deep sand, and it's a long straightaway. You go all the way back, and you make a 90-degree turn and come for 180 and come all the way back. And
the whoops on the way back?
Yeah, there's whoops there and back, and they get really rough, and it's really wide, so it's a good place to pass out there.
No, what about this golf cart? You know, what about me and you on the whoop section on this?
Well, I got a permission for you to sit in here, but you're going to have to leave now.
Oh. Sorry. Is Keith around? All right, ESPN2's down here at the whoop section, and look who we found. We got Ezra Luss. Now, me and Ezra were down here during the middle of this moto. We're scoping out the new line. Ezra, it's a little loud down here, though. What do you think about these whoops? They're a little more spread apart over here and then tighter on this side.
Yeah, they're pretty rough. You know, this sand's pretty thick, and it's sort of like back down in Florida where I grew up. You just saw the 2 Honda guys and another Yamaha come through here, and they used 3 different lines in one section of hoops. So, you know, there's a lot of lines right here to pass. You just have to hold it on into these corners.
Okay, you told me you got to stay on the gas entering over here. They're stretched out, and then it gets a little tighter. If you don't stay on the pipe entering this first section, by the time you get to the end, you're going slow, and you're getting past.
Yep, and Sam, momentum's always the name of the game. In these hoops, you got to start out real fast and just keep it up. Because farther you get down in those hoops, you just get slower and slower. So you got to start out fast and try to stay up on top of them.
All right, I know you pro motocrossers are in tip-top shape, but, hey, if I went into these pinned over here, by the time I got to here, would I be sucking wind, or would you be?
You know, somebody I think would run over your tongue somewhere around in there.
That's it. Now, we just want to say one more thing. Can you get that blonde? Oh, she's gone.
Too bad, Jerry. I think she's on her way up here to the booth. Well, Jan, we're getting set for Moto number 1, the all-important hole shot. Good to see Jerry back in action after taking last week off.
A lot of these riders took time off, so let's see, for those guys who are rested and are healed, who can get off the line best today. Of course, the starts are everything in any motocross. Let's go up the hill now and see who gets the hole shot.
Well, looks like the number 4 plate of the Honda of Steve Lamson gets around that right-hander first. You can see the one bike. That's Doug Henry. Jeff Emig is in there. And Mike Brown, who had that great run. Oh, we've already got a rider down on the ground, and it looks like, well, I hate to say it, but it's Chad Lowe. And last week he had that great run in the support race at Budds Creek where he had 2 fourth-place moto finishes, but not going to happen today, it looks like.
John, we mentioned last week that the only time we've really seen him in the Nationals is when he has crashed. Unfortunately for Chad, he was true to form today.
Look back there in third. That's Mike Brown winning both motos last week. But up front, it's Steve Lamson. Lammy had a very consistent year, but here in the second half, he's had a few problems. He lost the points lead, and now he is chasing his teammate, Doug Henry.
These Honda guys have gotten a great start, and actually with Mike Brown moving up into third there, it was a 1-2-3 Honda pull off the start. You got to wonder, do the Hondas have a little more power? Because it'll show on the start. We can see that Emig has moved his way past Brown, so Brown's now back to 4.
But he's got to be happy with that. You got 3 factory riders in front of him. He has to be, Brown, I should say, has to be running high after last week. Remember, he rode those motos last week to try and stay in shape, and so far, he has worked his way into the top 5 after a great start here at Millville.
Speaking about guys who took time off and those who did ride in that GP support race, this man right here, Lamson, rode the 250 Grand Prix, whereas his teammate Henry took some time off. Emig, who we just saw there in the picture, he also rode. Of course, he won that first moto. So we'll have to see. Looks like the guys who took time off are not doing as well as the guys who actually rode.
I guess it's you can keep your rhythm going, maybe.
Possibly. I mean, that's obviously why Lamson wanted to ride. That's why Emig wanted to ride. But the other guy said, hey, I need time to heal. I need time to rest. And we know in the case of Doug Henry that he has had troubles physically this year. So for him, it was probably not wanting to keep in the rhythm as much as it was wanting to get healed and get physically strong.
But you know, what a great story it will be if Doug Henry can go on and win the national championship again this year after the way he started the season. I mean, he had problems. He had to take IVs after motos, go to the hospital after motos, yet now he has fought his way back, and he is having a whale of his second half of the season. But right now, he's chasing down his teammate, Steve Lamson, who has had a pretty good season so far this year. He's got one overall victory. But look, Doug Henry working his way, taking a different line through the sand whoops as he's trying to carry that momentum up and take over the top position.
Ezra Lusk told us, as Jerry interviewed him, that there are a lot of different lines that you can take through that whoop section. There's Mike Gosselar, who looks after Lamson's bike. These guys have the opportunity on this nice, sandy, what they call loamy surface, to try all different kind of lines. And look at the respect these two have for each other. They're side by side, John.
Doug Henry going for the lead now. They'll go into the left-hander, break it down. Henry takes it away momentarily, but Lammy out-jumps him to move back out side by side as they come down the hill. Doug Henry takes over the top spot, but it could be just momentarily. Lamson looking for another line. He'll try to take the inside track. They'll come over that little jump. Doug Henry looking for an outside rut, cuts Lamson off, and you saw that Lamson could have stood on the gas and probably gotten into Doug Henry. But look at this. Lamson is not giving up that top position very easily, but Doug Henry has taken over it.
The thing I find most interesting, John, is that these two Red Riders are riding so professionally. They really know what each rider's going to do. We can see on replay what happened. You can see Henry go to the outside, but right here they could have knocked each other down. No, they have respect for each other. They both get on the gas. You can see Lamson tried to out-jump him, but it didn't work. Henry has gone through.
Well, Doug Henry right now is taking over the lead. You saw some fans as they came through that turn are cheering him on. Henry came in here with an 8-point lead over his teammate Steve Lamson. Now you can see Jeff Emig is kind of hanging around back there in third, but running along in the second place is Lammy. Let's check into his pits with Jerry Bernardo.
All right, Goose, Lammy ripped a killer hole shot. Came in on the turn, on the gas, and just laid that thing over. Led for a couple of laps, and then Doug snuck by. They're running close. What do you think?
It's real early in the race, you know. We've got a long way to go, and maybe he's just checking out his lines and hanging out for a little bit, waiting for the middle of the race or so.
And we got Jeff Emig running in third. Looks like we're going to have some good racing here at Millville, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to try not to let him know that Emig's behind him, you know, let him concentrate on what's in front.
Thanks, Goose.
Okay, thanks.
Bit of interesting strategy for Steve Lamson, not letting him know that Jeff Emig is behind him so he can concentrate on the job at hand. And look further back in the pack, Ryan Hughes, 19 points out of the points championship, and Jan, he's missing his rear fender.
Well, he had a crash in the second turn. We don't know how far he's dropped back, but I bet Jerry Bernardo can tell us. Jerry?
Chad, we noticed Rhino was back in the pack, and he went by with no rear fender. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, he got a bad start, and then he tangled with a few riders over there and went down on the first lap.
What place he running in now?
I think he's up to about 18th. He's third from last, so he's moving pretty good.
Yeah, he ain't going to stay there, is he?
I hope not.
He'll have to listen to it, right?
Yeah, he will.
Thanks.
What do you think about that, Jan?
Wow, Chad Watts is not cutting Ryan Hughes any slack, I'll tell you that. But Ryan Hughes is certainly a rider who can pull up through the field.
Well, he's in great shape, and right now in great shape, Doug Henry starting to put a little distance over Steve Lamson, who's riding around back in second. But, folks, we still got a long way to go in this first moto. Lammy is second, followed by Emig, and Mike Brown will be back with more right after this. Back at Millville, Minnesota, Jerry Bernardo in the pits, Jan Vikas and John Kernan up here in the booth. We move back into the second five. That's James Dobb leading that pack. He's running along in the 6th position. Chad Pedersen 7th, and Craig Decker is back in 8th.
Well, you can see looking at the front of Dobb there, it's a good thing we know who they are because you can't see the number plates. It's been blasted by roost here. And I would have to say that these three guys are having one of the best battles on the racetrack at the moment, but they're also three of the players on what's going to happen with who's going where in the silly season of motocross. James Dobb and Mike Brown, who we talked about earlier, are going to Honda of Troy. Now, when we look back at Craig Decker, 141 there, he is going to be joined by Tim Ferry and going to the Suzuki team and joining Ezra Lusk and Damon Huffman.
Well, we move back up front, and look, Steve Lamson has closed the gap just a bit on Doug Henry. As you see, Lammy once again trying some different lines, and Jeff Emig is still hanging around back there, Jan.
Well, you know, Jeff Emig is very good at pacing himself, but I'll have to say these Hondas are putting out right now a torrid pace, but it's nice to see that Emig can stay with it. We know that he can turn up the heat, and he might do so at the end.
Well, Doug Henry starting to turn it up. You see they're already lapping some riders out on the course. Let's go down to Doug's pit with Jerry Bernardo.
Still early in the race. Looks like we're going to have some good racing with Lammy and Doug up front and Jeff Emig running in third. He don't go down easy.
Nah, every weekend it's like this, and you never think, you never think everything's going to go right. So, if he stays calm and rides like he's rode last week or the race before, we'll be in good shape.
We'll check back with you. Thanks.
John, one thing I found interesting was that Pete Steinbrecher didn't want to look at Jerry Bernardo. He wanted to keep his eyes on Doug Henry. These guys watch the riders every step of the way, and a lot of them act almost as their coach as well as their mechanic.
You sure that's why he didn't want to look at Jerry? Sorry, Jerry. Okay, we look at the battle for second place. Steve Lamson is getting a push from Jeff Emig. Emig tried an outside line there just a few moments ago, a few turns ago. It didn't work, but he is caught right back up on Lammy. Now, we should make note that Bob Oliver is serving as the interim mechanic this week. Steve Butler, Emig's regular mechanic, is taking the weekend off. Let's check in with Jerry.
Bob, we got about 6 minutes and 2 laps left, and it looks like the number 6 bike, it's himself, is making a move on Lammy. What do you think?
He's trying real hard. He just has to get around him to get to Henry first.
He's poking right, he's poking left, but he can't make the move, huh?
Yeah, he's trying. We'll see. I think the back section of the track's his fast part, so we'll see how they come around.
Thanks.
Well, we should see very shortly. Emig is steadily closing the gap on Steve Lamson, and you can see some fans there in the turn saying, "Come on, Jeff, come on, Jeff."
Jeff seems to be experimenting with different lines, and he certainly looks as though he has turned up the heat. At the moment, right here, he is pretty happy following Lamson's line, but I notice on other sections, like right here in the whoops, he's trying new stuff.
Well, Lammy goes to the outside. Emig has decided to take the inside line. Lamson looks like he's having a bit of a problem, and look at that. Emig beats him into the turn, goes off the berm, gets on the gas, makes the pass, and moves into second place. A good move there.
We talked about trying different lines. What he did was he went all the way up against the tires, trying to find a smoother way through the whoops. On replay, look at Emig on your right, get right up against the tires, and it was a race to the berm. He got there first, squared it off, and he was right on through.
Carries his momentum right into second place, but Jan, time's starting to run out. Do you think he's got enough time to chase down Doug Henry? Doug Henry, we can't even see on a camera shot here. He has pulled out to a rather sizable lead as he continues to lead this first moto. But Emig, how many times have we seen him this year? If he's hanging around, if he's still on the bike in the late stages, he's got a lot of energy left.
There's no question he is absolutely the fastest rider on the track right now on his Yamaha. We talked about the fact that he won the first moto of the 250 Grand Prix, and there his mechanic, Bob Oliver, he's checking his watch, John, and then he thinks there's enough time.
That's right, Bob Oliver filling in for Steve Butler, who normally turns the wrenches on Emig's bike, but Butler had some personal things to take care of this weekend, so he has passed up this weekend's racing. But if he were here, he'd have to be very pleased that Emig has worked his way. Remember, he got off the line in fourth. Now he's second. He's chasing down Doug Henry, and look at that, Jan. He made up a lot of time on just one lap, it looks like.
We said he was the fastest rider on the track, and that Yamaha is flying. He is caught up. He is going to have an opportunity to go for the lead here. I don't think Henry's slowing. I think that Emig is just on the gas.
Well, I wonder if Doug Henry even knows that Jeff Emig is back there. Henry might have gotten out to such a big lead that he decided to try and take it easy. Well, right now we're getting into a section of the course where Emig made a move on Steve Lamson. It's coming up on the sand whoops. Let's see which lines these riders take. Right now, Emig is right behind Henry, but Henry goes to the outside. Look at Emig coming to the inside. This is what worked a couple of laps ago. We'll see if it works again.
Wow, Emig took that inside line. It worked for him. He didn't go all the way against the tires like he did before. I think what was significant there was Henry got all whooped out of shape there by going on that outside lane. It looks rough.
It definitely did. As you can see, the front wheel of Doug Henry looked like it was skipping, popping around, and Jeff Emig just took that inside line, got to the turn first, and made the move. Let's look at it again.
On the left of the screen, you see Henry. Watch the front end of the bike here. Actually, it was a few whoops before that when he really lost the time, but there is where the difference made. They raced to the berm. Who can get there first, square it off, and get back down to this section? Twice, Emig has pulled it off in that area.
Well, Jeff Emig has moved out into the lead. Doug Henry is following closely behind. Lamson is in third, and it's Staub and Brown. We are on the final lap. Jeff Emig, who got around Doug Henry just a little bit ago, is pulling out to a rather sizable advantage. Emig well on his way if he can keep the bike on the track. Oh, and speaking of keeping it on the track, Damon Huffman having a problem. We haven't heard much from him all day. He's not been running well in his first moto, and it's going to hurt him as far as the point standings go. He came into this race just 33 points behind the leader, but look back up front. Emig is saying so long.
You know, that whoop section, John, has really caused a lot of problems for people, but not for Jeff Emig. Look at him fly over those jumps, wave to the crowd. He loves the showboat. We should say that he only has a few more races on a 125. We have called him Mr. 125, but of course he's moving to the 250 Yamaha for next year. And then Kevin Windham, the youngster we saw so strong earlier in the season, he'll come in and take over these 125 Yamaha duties.
Well, we're really certainly going to miss seeing Emig riding the 125s next year. I mean, he's an exciting rider to watch. He's very smooth through the first half of a moto, and then if he's in a position, even if he's third or fourth, second half of the moto, he always has that little bit of extra energy that he digs down deep, pulls it out, and moves up to the front. He's just an exciting racer to watch. Look at that wave right there on the jump as he waves over to the crowd. Jeff Emig on his way to the victory in moto number 1. And there you see the checkered flag. Emig just kind of comes over, puts the thumbs up. He takes first. He's followed by Doug Henry, Steve Lamson, James Staub. Mike Brown comes in the 5th position. And as you take a look at the rest of the top 10, Ryan Hughes coming back to finish 9th. Jerry is with the winner.
Okay, first moto victory here with Jeff Emig. Jeff, running in third, consistent, then you didn't really sneak your way to the front, but you put some moves on at the end to get by Henry.
Yeah, I was back there in third, and Henry and Lamson were going real fast. I was just trying to ride my best race, and and then know the outcome. And once again, right around that 20-minute mark, I picked up on him and put the moves on him back in the tan wheel. So that makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's what I heard out back. We didn't get to really see it because we were only over here in the pits, but you had some good moves out there in the back.
Yeah, a couple of times I went through that sand section, man. I thought I was just going to pitch it. And then there was those couple of times when I just really made up a lot of time on the leaders.
All right, good job. We'll see you in the second moto.
Thanks, Jerry.
Also, a good job by Doug Henry. He certainly doesn't hurt his chances to defend his national championship with a fine second-place finish. He is with Jerry.
Doug, we had a good moto here. We had tough competition up front. Lammy ripped a nice hole shot. You were running second. Jeff was behind you. All that changed. You had the lead for a while, and then Emig got by.
Yeah, it was a good race. All three of us got a good start, so me and Steve were able to pull away at the beginning, and I just kind of got around him, and I just tried to ride a smooth race, try to save energy for the end, and kind of ran into a lap rider. I had a good lead. I ran right into the back of a lap rider in the sand section, and they were right on me, one lap, and I wasn't ready for him just yet, and those guys were pushing hard. I tried to pick it up. I think I pulled away a little bit, but just started getting a little tired towards the end there, and Jeff reeled me in.
So near the end, you still have a little bit left in you, feeling better physically from earlier in the year when you have some difficulties with your health?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out what it is. I'm just trying to get through. This weekend and next weekend, we'll see what happens,
Hey, we got another moto to go. You never know what's going to happen here in Moto Land in Millville.
Yeah, I got almost as many points as I can. I can't be too bad.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, dude. Well, yeah, I guess we could say that's the first time this weekend that Doug Henry's bike has been on the ground. We'll be back at Moto Land at Millville after.
He's number 1 on his factory Honda, but he also brings his wife Stacy, his number 1 fan, to each and every race. In the ever-changing world of motocross, she keeps everything on an even keel. It's a relationship that goes way back.
Me and my wife Stacy go back a long way. Me and her younger brother were best friends, growing up, and she was a couple of years older than me, and you know, back then when you're 11, 12 years old, it's not right for a guy, you know, a kid 10 to be going out with a 12-year-old. It was always the other way around. So I always just looked at her and I liked her, and I always thought she was the most beautiful person in the world.
It more or less started out as two friends getting together and encouraging each other to be their best. So all this came after the love and the commitment to each other. So I think that's what helps.
Where most couples develop their relationships at home, Doug feels his relationship with Stacy has developed on the road.
You know, being on the road with someone you want to spend the rest of your life with, being on the road for a year, I think is like being at home for 5 years. We learned so much about each other, you know, in the van. You know what I mean? We're in a box van this big, and we're living there on the road with, you know, not much money, just kind of just winging it, really.
Watching him is kind of what helps me encourage him emotionally. It's kind of like, it doesn't necessarily come from my love for him, but it comes from watching his love for riding. So my support is like knowing he could go out there and totally be dedicated to what he's doing, and I just kind of remind him of that from watching him as he progressed from a young boy to the man with riding with the #1 plate. It's like I remind him of where he came from and how he got here.
The rider with the #1 plate does know where he came from, but he's learned how to balance the love for his wife with the love of his riding.
She more inspires me off the track, but she helps me so much with my riding. You know, when I'm out on the track, I race to do the best I can and, you know, kind of make myself happy. And I know that when I do good, she's always there in the back of my head when I'm racing. But I know when I do good, it makes her happy too.
It's like there are times when I'm the stronger, there are times when he's the stronger, but when it works for me and when I feel like I've accomplished something is when we both work together and we both reached it together. That's my highlight.
Well, is it any wonder that Doug Henry has been able to come back from the problems he had at the beginning of the year to lead the points right now with the support that he's getting from his wife, Stacy?
Well, the support that he gets, obviously, and the factory support that he gets is going to make a difference here on the start. We've seen the Hondas get the whole shot in the first moto. Let's see if they have the power to do it again.
Well, this is a great start. Instead of having a really tight turn as they go around the right-hander, you can almost stand on the gas and look at that. There's the Honda of Steve Lamson. He got the whole shot in the first moto. He gets it once again. Doug Henry is in tow. Also Damon Huffman. Robbie Raynard, it looks like, is running about 4th or 5th. Robbie finished 11th in the first moto. But look at Steve Lamson as he starts to pull away.
Some of the other guys that got a good start, we see Ezra Lusk, we saw Chad Pedersen. Also, Ryan Hughes is back in there with a good start. So let's see if he can come in and get in this championship fight.
Well, Steve Lamson is taking the early lead. Let's check in with Mike Gosselar, who's standing by with Jerry Bernardo.
We're rolling in Moto 2, Goose. Deja vu, another awesome #4, Steve Lamson hole shot. How do you guys do it? The teamwork, I mean.
Well, it's him getting the good jump, but he's riding that Honda. You know, it's got the horsepower.
Okay, what were the changes in between Moto 1 and 2? Because he ripped a killer hole shot and then dropped back.
We changed our routine stuff. The only thing we did different, we tried a different rear brake lever. The first moto when he was catching Henry, he got some dirt packed between the brake lever and the clutch cover, and he had to stop and get the mud out. It was stuck.
Stallone cliffhanger question. Can he hang on?
Yes, he will.
Well, Alicia, now we know what happened in that first moto when Lamson kind of slowed down.
Yeah, it was the cologne. Got you, Jerry. Well, you know, when you do get mud stuck between that lever and the case, it was locking up the rear brake. Now he doesn't have that problem, and he's just going away.
Well, he is leading it right now. Doug Henry has a battle on his hands as Damon Huffman is coming up trying to put the move. And look at Robbie Raynard, who's in 4th, and that's Ryan Hughes back in 5th.
Robbie Raynard and Ryan Hughes, there's some Kawasaki bragging rights going on here because there's a lot of talk about who's the real factory rider here. Robbie Raynard with a big contract, and then, of course, Ryan Hughes right now way up in the points.
Well, for Robbie Raynard, it's been a very tough year. He's had a lot of ups and downs, crashed quite a bit. It's a good thing he's only 17 years old. Otherwise, it'd take a long time for him to heal up.
Well, certainly he has the speed when he's healthy, but these two guys right now have the speed. And look at Huffman. He's making a move on Henry.
Well, Damon Huffman, remember we saw him fall in that very first moto. He got back up, and he came back to finish 7th. Right now he goes to the inside, trying to cut off Doug Henry. He'll swing around once again. Oh, and Huffman goes down. Man, Damon Huffman, just as he's trying to make a bid for 2nd place on Doug Henry. We don't know if he got tangled up or what.
On the replay, let's see what happened. First he tried the inside. Now he goes to the inside of the next corner. And right there, you can see the back wheel caught one of those whoops and threw it out just as he was trying to go for the inside line. That's what happens, John, when you try a line for the first time when you're trying to make a move.
Man, that bike just slid right out from under him. Just whoop. It's like a bucking bronco. But look now, Robbie Raynard, he's moved up into 3rd spot. And now we've got another rider that has crashed in the whoops. And that looks like number 37. That's Scott Sheik. Man, those whoops are tough.
If you don't have it timed just right on the replay here, oh, you can see that is a true tank slapper. Whew. Man, he's lucky he can get back on this one. He'll lose a few positions, but I'm sure he'll be back up to speed in no time.
Well, Scott Sheik losing several positions there. There you see the 2nd spot. And look, Ryan Hughes and James Dobb have both gotten around Robbie Raynard while we were in replay.
We talked about Robbie Raynard having the speed, but we did also say that he's not real healthy. You have a trio here. Look how far. Is that Dobb? Yeah, James Dobb. They're out jumping Raynard. And, of course, Ryan Hughes makes the trio here of the Kawasaki's. It's very interesting to see how well Dobb is doing. He beat Ryan Hughes, his teammate, in the first one. Now he's leading Robbie Raynard, who is really the youngster with tons of talent, and he is right behind Ryan Hughes, who is right up there in the points. Now he's going to Honda of Troy for next year. He already has his deal pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered. At least that's what he's saying in the press. But he wants to make sure that people know that he's not going to be overshadowed by these other 2 Kawasaki riders.
Well, how important is it for the pro circuit guys to be out running the fully factory-supported team?
John, at the beginning of the season, I think it was very important. You can see Ryan Hughes, James Dobb, those are the pro circuit riders. Then there is Robbie Raynard. And I think that now it's an accepted fact that they're winning. Let's check in with Jerry with Chad Watts.
Chad, what's that smug look on your face?
We're not in first, so I'm not happy.
All right. Other than putting a rear fender on the bike, what else did you do? What's going to keep Ryan up front? He's running a nice 3rd right now.
You just got to creep at an aggressive pace and try to push with Henry, because right now the guys are going about a second a lap faster, so he's got to pick it up.
And when you're running a second a lap slower, Jan, that's really hard. You got to work twice as hard to make that up.
Well, you can see the disappointment in Chad Watts' face there, and he is going to put that on the pit board. He's going to say, you are losing a second lap, Ryan. Stand on it.
Right now, though, James Dobb is standing on it. A move to the outside. Hughes holds him off for that 3rd spot, but Dobb trying desperately to get around his teammate.
This is a great battle here on the Hot Wheels Pro Circuit Split Fire team. They've got lots of good sponsors. What happened here? It looks like, okay, Dobb was just on the inside line for a moment there. It looked as though Rhino had really pulled out some distance.
Well, Steve Lamson and Doug Henry continue to lead it. We'll be back after this. Motocross Park, Millville, Minnesota. Jerry Bernardo down in the pits. Jan Beekes and John Kernan up here in the booth. Looking back at a really tight battle. This is the best battle out there on the track right now. It's for 3rd place. Ryan Hughes currently holds it. His teammate James Dobb, who made a bid just before we went to commercial break, is right hot on his tail. And also, Robbie Raynard is in there.
This 3-way Kawasaki battle has been good the entire race, and you can see right now that they're all running about the same line, and they're kind of waiting for the guy ahead to make a mistake. Oh, there are some different lines being tried by Dobb going up the inside.
Dobb trying on the inside. Didn't seem to work for him right there, but, Jan, at least he didn't lose any ground to Ryan Hughes.
I think this is the time in the race when you're riding the same line as somebody, you better try something else. Let's see. Yeah, he's taking that inside line that we saw Emick do earlier. Let's see if it works for him. We can't tell if he closed in the gap because that was the faster line. It certainly looked for the Yamaha of Emick, but didn't seem to help Dobb too much.
And Dobb right there. Well, you know, suspension could be different on the Yamaha as opposed to the Kawasaki. Maybe that's why the inside line was fast for the Yamaha, maybe not so for the Kawasaki.
Those suspension settings, John, are very secret. You couldn't find out exactly what they're using. But I think what we are seeing is that a rider's riding style plays a lot more than the suspension setup. I mean, you have to get the bike right, but then a good rider picking the right line can make up a huge distance.
Well, you could almost see James Dobb when he took that inside line there through the sand loops. Jeff Emick seemed to speed up. Dobb seemed to slow down. But he knew it had worked for Emig, so I guess he decided to try it himself. But right now he is having a hard time closing the gap. See, he goes on the outside at that rut up against the berm, but you see Ryan Hughes pulls away with that inside line.
I think they have to go to school on each other, and unless you try something, you won't know which line is faster. There we saw Dobb take a different one, and then, of course, Robbie Raynard following what Dobb is doing. He sees that Dobb is catching Raynard, so therefore, if he follows in Dobb's tracks, theoretically, he should close in too.
Well, Ryan Hughes right now holding on consistently to that third spot. We are past the midway point of Moto number 2. Remember, Rhino crashed on the very first lap, came back, did a nice job to finish 9th in that very first Moto. But right now he's got his hands full as his teammate James Dobb is consistently trying to worry him to make a mistake. You see Dobb on that turn pulled in and got just a little bit close. He might be trying to set him up as we'll come down through past the pit board signs, and they'll get ready to go through the sand whoops here in a bit.
I think through here is where you can see how nice it is to have a former national champion prepare this track. We see Dobb go to the inside. He's been doing that. I'm not sure if that's helping him. When you have a former national champion preparing a track and you have this nice sandy, loamy surface, as they call it, I think it makes a big difference, and it lets these guys pick the different lines.
Oh, Rhino almost lost it right there in the sand whoops, and hey, look, that's James Dobb, I think. Was that Dobb back there in the middle? It looked like a Kawasaki rider.
Well, let's see if Robbie Raynard comes into the picture, because we know there were 3 Kawasaki's.
Well,
yes, there's number 30. That's Dobb. Ooh, he lost it. We have a chance to look and replay. First of all, look at Ryan Hughes. Oh, man, it looks like his visor went all the way into the tank when he mistimed that. Now, look in the background. Right there, Dobb goes down.
And Robbie Raynard gets around to 4th place. Now we look back at the winner of Moto number 1, Jeff Emig. He got off to a poor start. He was running back as deep as 10th, but I believe, Jan, right now he has moved up into the top 5. You see Craig Decker also back there, and look how many spots James Dobb lost.
Wow. James Dobb, when you take a header in those whoops, obviously that's going to make a huge difference. Let's see, as we see, you can see that yellow flag. Somebody else has crashed back there in the whoops again. Oh, and it is James Dobb again. Back-to-back headers right there in the whoop section. Man, that's a tough day for him.
Oh, man, and look at that. Now he's talking to one of the mechanics.
He says, hey, I can't help you now, buddy. You're on your own.
But look at that. He's having some kind of problems, it looks like. Well, he looks like he's going to make it back out onto the course, but now look at that. He's turning right around. I guess, well, he's back up underway. He's just not going very fast. I wonder if he broke something on the bike. Maybe Jerry Bernardo can find out and let us know later. But Craig Decker now, as we look, is having a fine run. He has moved his way into the top 10. Should be running in the 6th position right now behind Jeff Emig.
Craig Decker is a guy that we talked about earlier who will be moving from the Honda he's on now to a factory Suzuki ride for next year. So obviously he wants to take that private effort and he wants to show people, man, wait till I get the factory machinery.
And we see what these factory riders can do on their machinery. Look at Steve Lamson. He took the whole shot, and in fact he took it also in the first moto, but Doug Henry would eventually get around him. He of course had some problems with mud getting stuck between the case and the brake pedal, and that drifted him back to a 3rd place finish. But now that he's gotten out in front, Jan, he has consistently pulled away. Look at that gap. What was that, about 4 seconds all the way back to Doug Henry? Then we look back a few more seconds to the battle for 3rd place, Ryan Hughes and Robbie Raynard.
Ryan Hughes and Robbie Raynard both have so much talent, but they've had good races and bad races. They don't have the consistency that Lamson, who just went through, and here Henry. Those guys are up in the championship because of that consistent race finish.
Well, Ryan Hughes right now, he is not out of the championship hunt by any means, and he's not out of the hunt to win Moto number 2, but he's going to have to catch getting ready to get down to business at Millville. The battle for 3rd more or less has stabilized. Ryan Hughes is running in 3rd, followed by Robbie Raynard, and Raynard almost running out of time if he's going to make a challenge for that 3rd position.
Not only do we have a battle there for 3rd, but there's a battle shaping up for the lead. You can see, oh, he looks behind him. Lamson says, aha, I see my teammate closing in. But boy, we don't see him in the shot there, but we can certainly see from our vantage point that that gap is tightening. There he is.
Well, Doug Henry trying to chase down Steve Lamson. Jan, what he's thinking right now, Henry finished 2nd in the first moto, Lamson 3rd. Lamson wins this moto. He gets the overall of 45 points. Henry would double up on the deuces for 44 points. If Henry can get around Lammy and take the win, he'll take the overall. That means 3 additional points in the battle for the national championship.
I tell you, Lamson put a nice move on a lap rider there. How you get through lapped riders does make a big difference. It looks like Lamson has everything going his way, but let's look into there. Oh, man, this gap is narrowing, John.
Well, Doug Henry thinking national championship as we are in round 9 out of 12 after we leave here today, after we leave Millville. Only 3 rounds left. Jan did a little research, looked back at some previous championship races. Last year, Henry defeated Emig by 9 points, 92 Emig over LaRocco by 19. But listen to this, back in 1990, Guy Cooper defeated Mike Kudrowski by only 1 point. Every point you can get, very critical in each one of these motos. Right now, we are on the final lap as Doug Henry slowly running out of time if he wants to get around his teammate and take the overall victory.
You know, these guys are sponsored on the Hondas by 1-800-COLLECT. They have a great commercial. Who gets to call home and tell Mom I won? You know, this one isn't over. I bet those guys will be racing to the telephone to call home and say, I did it, I beat my teammate again. That's what Lamson's hoping he's going to say.
Oh, look, as they come to the sand loops, both riders using the outside line, but Jan, I swear, Doug Henry came through faster, and he is just about 5 bike lengths behind Lammy.
Look at Henry go. At first, I thought Lamson was kind of just taking it easy on the last lap, but not right now. He has looked over his shoulder, and man, Henry has turned up the gas.
Well, that last entry into that right-hander, Henry went on the inside, Lammy on the outside, up the hill over that jump. A lap rider moves over. Doug Henry off the jump very strong as he will get in, and look at the lap rider, gets on the brakes, allows both riders to come through cleanly. Henry has cut it down to just a few bike lengths now as we have just a little over a half a lap to go to decide Moto number 2 and who gets the overall victory.
We have a race. It's one thing to catch a rider. It's another thing to pass. He is absolutely right on his rear wheel, but can Henry move past his teammate? As the points leader, will he take the chance?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there he goes. Oh, man, I tell you, he took a chance right there, Jan, coming down that hill. He pretty much over-jumped it. His momentum carried him into the turn too far, and look how much ground he lost to Steve Lamson.
On replay, we get a chance to look at it. They come down the hill. They're neck and neck. Wow, yeah, he comes on the inside line. He's looking great, but right there, he just lost the momentum, John, just like you called it. That could make the difference between first and second.
Well, he's closing right back up to a bike length. Listen to the crowd. They come around the turn. Checker is out, and Steve Lamson has held off his teammate, Doug Henry. And what we had a few weeks ago, a close finish. Now back in the battle for third. Ryan Hughes trying to hold off Robbie Raynard. Rhino will do it. Rhino takes third, Raynard fourth. We will be back to wrap things up in just a moment. More than 12,000 fans gathered to watch exciting motocross action, and they saw some great racing. Steve Lamson comes away with the victory, followed by Doug Henry, Ryan Hughes, Robbie Raynard. Jeff Emig rallies to finish 5th. And as you check out the remainder of the top 10, Jerry Bernardo is down there with our winner.
Okay, all I can say, Steve, is you earned that. Back-to-back killer hole shots. You having a little fun out there? Winning?
Yeah, I mean, Doug was putting the pressure on me, and I just tried to, concentrate the whole time and got the hole shot. That helped. So I think I had a little bit harder, just nobody paced me in front. So I felt really good and comfortable.
Okay, how's the track? Is it all whooped out in the back there? I mean, you guys were totally flying. Had a little pressure from behind, but you stayed on the pipe the whole moto.
Yeah, it was getting a little rough the back stand section, and actually I think it was a little easier this moto because they watered it a little bit so you could get a little bit of traction. But, besides that, I'm mighty happy.
I wonder why Doug didn't stop and talk to us.
I don't know. I think he was going to be laying down in the truck in a minute, probably. I don't know.
All right, good job, though. Proud to see you out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay.
Well, Honda sweeps the first 2 spots in the overall standings. Lammy winning it. Doug Henry coming in second. Well, Doug not taking too much of a rest down in his van. He is standing by with Jerry.
Okay, now that you're smiling, you had your little breath of fresh air. We had a killer moto. Lammy ripped identical hole shot to Moto 1. Then you guys were having a good pace out front. How come you couldn't get around him? Not that you weren't going fast.
I was just trying to ride a comfortable pace, and Steve was doing the same thing, and he got a little lead on me, and Pete Steinbecker told me, there's about 10 minutes left, and I knew that I had a little bit of time, so I figured might as well go for it, because, next week is, a long way away, and I can recover, so no big deal, just charge at the end and see how I feel.
Did you ever notice when they hand you those 1-800 hats, they're like set for gargantuan helmet size?
Yeah, well, Dave Arnold's got the gorilla head, I guess you'd call it.
Okay, now physically, you said you need a little breather. How'd you feel at the end of Moto 2?
Not too bad. You know, I felt, you know, I was able to run about the same pace throughout the whole race, you know, and last couple laps I picked it up, and, you know, I was hoping to try to force Lammy into a mistake or a lap rider or something, and, you know, I caught right up to him, but, you know, you do what you do, and that's the breaks.
Well, week in and week out, you guys put on a great show for the fans and everybody, and make the 125 class totally dominating for good racing for everybody out there in TV land. 250s, snoring, 125s, any 5 guys can win. But thanks for the good show today.
You can see and hear the crowd. You know, they got their shirts waving, and you know, you could hear them all the way around the track. And you know, I knew I was closing on Lammy, even if I didn't see him in front of me, just by the fan reaction. You know, I could tell I was right there.
All right, thanks, Doug.
All right, thank you.
Well, by virtue of his overall win, Steve Lamson closes the gap somewhat in the battle for the national championship, 7 behind, with Ryan Hughes 31 back.
Ryan, you had a lot of pressure from behind. You had Robbie Raynard, and you probably had one of the best battles going on. Lammy got out front and kind of ran away a little bit. We had a good race going on between you and Robbie Raynard. How was that?
Yeah, I didn't do too good the first moto, so I wanted to come back with some revenge. But, yeah, I got third. I got some points. Robbie was right behind me. You know, hit me a couple times, but I kept my line. But that's racing, you know. He wanted to get by me, but I wouldn't let him by me. So, you know, that's okay. A good racing's, you know, always fun.
Okay, back to the first moto. You had a little crash, ripped your rear fender right off. What happened there?
Yeah.